A lot of uncertainty, but you got us to go through it all with you, so very lucky.
And yeah, we're going to start off with a Tottenham update. And just before we start that Tottenham update, Paul O'Keefe has said that Spurs are going to be very active in this window. But it's not the first time we've heard that one prior to a window going into it. However, still uncertainty, still no word on the manager, which is obviously very frustrating. But there are a lot of transfer rumours to get through. So let's get straight into it.
Well, for what you say, Paul O'Keefe says that, are the season ticket renewals still open?
No.
They're not open anymore. So there's no reason to lie.
No.
Yeah, it must be true then.
They closed on the 27th, so 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah. But we're going to start talking about Cuti Romero. AS are reporting that Tottenham are demanding 70 million euros from Atletico after initial conversations, a figure that will not be met by Atletico. Spurs are insistent on keeping Romero, but the player himself is still open to the move.
Well, you can jog on if they're not going to pay at least 70 million. I think that's 70 million euros is like the minimum, I would say. So
it's a pretty fair price.
I think so. I think that's a price that he's worth. And when you're looking at a player of his pedigree, his quality, and also what you'll be getting, they should be willing to pay that. If you're not willing to pay that, how much do they actually want him? So for me, that's got to be the minimum price for sure. Yeah. But I'm happy. I would like to keep him. Hopefully, he's happy to stay. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of who the manager is, and I'm sure that doesn't help the situation.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the longer it goes on, the more likely it is Ange's going to stay.
It's hard to know. You can look at it either way. But probably because if they were going to get rid of him, then you kind of want to get that search underway. But then again,
it might be going on in the background.
Yeah, it could be going on in the background. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Yeah, on the flip side, the longer it goes on, you could say, well, if they were going to keep him, they would have something. We would have heard word.
Or, journalists would have come out and said
we would have heard.
Yeah.
And the fact that we haven't is also. So either way, it's bad.
Yeah. Just get on with it, Tottenham. What are you waiting for? There are a few quotes coming out today as well. I know these quotes are probably taken from an interview that was done prior to the final, but the interview has only been released today. And on his future, he said, right now I'm at Tottenham. I'll give my best until the very last day. I'm happy here as they make me feel like an important player, which is nice. Whatever the future holds must be right for both of us. And then he was talking about his life in England, and he says it's tough. Not so much for me because I love coming to training, but my family, it's tough because they're being locked up all the time because it's raining, it's freezing. They suffer a lot. So, I mean, yeah, he's probably got knocked on the door from his wife, from his kids. Well, his kids don't knock on his door because his kids are very, very young. But whoever is in his entourage and just say, look, let's get out of this place, man. It's freezing, always raining. Let's go to Spain.
Yeah, and I can understand that as well because Spain, the weather there is so much nicer. You got the sunny Spain. I can understand the appeal of that. So from that point of view, when you've got family members that he's already kind of hinting they want to move, obviously that's going to play a part, isn't it? And in terms of his overall happiness, obviously these are things that Tottenham can't control. If his wife wants to go to Spain and he's getting an offer, it's hard to those are kind of intangibles you can't really control. So. But it doesn't mean that's going to massively influence his decision. But it means that's something that is in the back of his mind when he does make decisions. So I think it's obvious that at some point he wants to move there. Whether it's this summer, whether it's in a year's time, whether it's in 2 years' time, who knows? But I think at one point he is going to go there.
Yeah, and the way if he is going to go there at some point, and he's if he wants to do that, he's probably not going to sign that deal. So it probably still does point to the fact he probably will leave this summer. When you take everything into account, Levy's going to want to get the most money as possible, whether that comes from Atletico or a different club, we don't know. But if Atletico as well are not going to meet the demands, then how is he going to leave? We're going to end up selling him on the cheap next summer or ultimately let him go for free the year after.
Well, I wouldn't rule him out. I wouldn't rule him out signing a 1 year extension just because he could be getting a big pay bump. And in a year's time, we're back in a similar situation. All is different is that he's had a year with a lot better pay, and if Atletico aren't going to stump up the cash, would he rather a year with better pay, or would he rather maybe a protracted contract talks or kind of rumours, and then potentially run down his contract in 2 years' time when he could have been earning a lot more money here?
Yeah, that's true, but then again, he could look at it in a case of if he runs down his contract and gets that free transfer in 2 years' time, he'll probably get more pay than he's ever going to get.
In 2 years' time, potentially, yeah, that's fine, but you're still waiting 2 years with a lot less pay. And even if he signs that contract, I'm sure he could even move after that and get another pay increase.
But like the wages that he's going to get from a free transfer will be bigger than, getting a wages for a big transfer fee.
Yeah, potentially. We'll get a signing on fee as well.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's in it and playing the long game and everything like that, then I think that's probably the way he would want to play it.
Could do.
But anyway, let's talk about Ben Davies now. George Sessions says that Tottenham are mulling over whether to activate a 1-year extension in Ben Davies' contract. If not activated, Davies will be out of contract at the end of June. Final decision expected next week. Forster, Whiteman and Reguilon will leave Spurs when their contracts do expire on the 30th of June. So this is what he's saying. I've heard completely conflicting, and I actually messaged last night to get further confirmation, and he's still telling me the deal with Ben Davies 1-year extension is 100% signed. However, he did also say that he believes that they're going to try and sell him this summer.
I would. Look, I love Ben Davies. I think he's been a brilliant servant for Tottenham. He's always put in 100%. Even at times this season, he stepped in and done well. The reality is, I think it's just time to move on. I think from what I've seen, when we used him in the second team, he just doesn't quite cut it. He's done all right in Europa League at times. Obviously, he played very well away at like Man City, and there was a spell when he first broke in, he was playing quite well. So I'm going to give him credit. But I think the guy is over 30 now, doesn't really have the legs to play left back anymore. And I just don't think has the physicality to trust him at centre-back too regularly. I'd just rather move him on, get an upgrade, a younger player, hungrier player in that position who we can more trust to step in when we have to rotate, or even someone to challenge that first team. Davies is just never going to do that. And I understand he's got his value, and I understand that sometimes you do need players like him around who are willing to play second fiddle and are willing to do a job for the team. But he's been doing it for a long time, let's be honest. He's been doing that for a long time, and there is whatever people want to say, there is a clear gap in quality when he comes in. I'm sorry, that's just a brutal truth. There's a clear gap in quality when he comes into the team. And as much as maybe that gap in quality was a lot less before than it is now, I think it is there. And I just think he's been here for 10 years. It's just time to move him on and get a different player, especially the squad at the moment. We have to be ruthless, right? We've got a bloated squad that we in terms of we've got a few players that if we want to sign players for Champions League next season, we're going to have to make a few ruthless calls for players that we like, and I think he's one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been an unbelievable servant for the club over the last 10 years, Ben Davies, always reliable, always dependable. But yeah, I do think it's probably time for him to move on, and I still think he holds a value. I think he can go somewhere and play week in, week out for a team. I still think teams should hold him in some sort of high regard to a certain extent. And when you're looking at, we need to find a successor for him. Like if it's like Piero Hincapié, he would be like the perfect example, wouldn't he? Someone that can fill in at left back, fill in at left centre back, and doesn't drop the quality too much. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, when you take out a Mickey van der Ven and put in a Ben Davies, the quality difference is there for all to see. But I do feel for Ben Davies a bit, because I feel like he's been so underappreciated for so many years at Tottenham. 10 years he's been at this club, and when everyone's talking about winning this trophy, everyone's going on about Son. Son's finally got the trophy. No, not one person mentions Ben Davies.
It's true.
And he's been here longer than him. He was Pochettino's first signing at this football club. So I do feel for him a bit. I completely think that he's been underappreciated all these years.
No one furniture.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he deserves a lot of respect at this football club, and if he is to leave this summer, he leaves with his head held high with the service that he gave to this football club. But I do agree. I do think it's probably time to move on.
I don't think many, because I think he sees himself now as purely a centre back. I don't even think he wants to play left back anymore. And I think if he was to leave, who in the Premier League, apart from maybe the teams coming up, who signs him to start for them at centre back?
I think a team that play a back three. I think
maybe one of a back three. Who Palace? Maybe. I mean, does he start for Palace? I don't even know. Wolves. maybe. I don't know. Maybe he starts Wolves. Okay, I'll give you that in a back three potentially. But even then, it's touch and go. I don't see many teams apart from like who play in a back two signing him to start. And I think that just speaks volumes.
All right, let's move on. But look, I do think he's still Premier League quality, though. He can play.
Is.
He can play in the bottom half of the Premier League. Like, he's just not maybe Champions League quality. That's the thing.
I don't think he starts for many bottom half teams at centre back. I just don't.
I'm just trying to think like who
like Everton. Like if Everton signed him, does he start for them? I don't think so. Like maybe these three teams that went down.
You need a team to play to his strengths, and a high line game is not playing to his strengths. He needs to play for a team that kind of sit back.
You say that, but yeah, three at the back. I agree. That's probably where he can still be a very good level Premier League defender. I agree with that. But if you're playing him in a back two, I just think he especially even a team that sits back, he'll be found out a bit because physically, I think he's all right. But when he comes up against the better strikers, he can be bullied, and I think we've seen that. Look, I think he's a good player. I think if you're signing him to be a squad player in terms of mid-table Premier League team, that's fine. But I just don't see many Premier League teams signing him to start him at centre back.
You not see him like going to like a Brentford or someone like that, like with Ethan Pinnock and Collins and these kind of guys. He's not too dissimilar level to them.
I think they're probably a bit better than him, to be honest.
Maybe, but he still sees significant game time in that team.
Yeah, probably as a squad player. I don't think he's a nailed-on starter.
Talking about Brian Hill and Manor Solomon, George also says that Brian Hill and Manor Solomon will have to leave. Will have to find a move this summer after returning from their loan spells. I mean, look, Brian Hill is no secret because we've been trying to get rid of him for so many years now, and he's gone to Spain. He's had a good season, but had a massive injury, so it is going to be hard to sell him this summer. That is the reality. With Manor Solomon, he's gone away. He's had an unbelievable season with Leeds, and he's the one that really has a value going into this transfer market. And you were thinking you could probably get 15 to 20 million for someone of Manor, what he's done this season. And there's been rumours of him going back to Leeds. There's been rumours of him going to Marseille to play back under De Zerbi. So he's going to have a few suitors for him this summer. Agreed.
And fair play to him. He's gone to Leeds and taken that chance and really got his career back on track, because the last couple of years when he's been injured for a lot of the time, then Fulham, he was injured and did come back and done well, which earned him his move to Tottenham. But it's been very disrupted. And, he came to Tottenham as a big break. And it was very unlucky he got that injury. But I think he did what he needed to do this year, which was just build his confidence up. I said at the beginning of the season, I want you to drop down to the Championship and prove you're too good for that level and prove how good you are. And I think he did that. I was actually talking to a Leeds fan yesterday. I'm good friends with a Leeds fan, and he was saying he thinks we're mad to let him go. He thinks we should be keeping him. And he thinks he's Champions League quality. That's his belief. But I just think, again, like I was saying before, we have to be just a bit ruthless this summer. And when it comes to Manor, he's done well in the Championship, but it's a chance to get a good fee for a player, sellable asset for a player. I just don't think the club are convinced is ever going to be the guy that we need in that front line in terms of relied upon starting player who's like a star player. We've got a lot of young wingers. Obviously, he's not young, but if we're looking for a more established winger, is he the answer to that? I just don't think the club are convinced by it. Not to say he's not a good player, but I just think we're looking for a high caliber, and I think we got him on a free, pure profit we get for whatever we sell him to. And I think it was one of these times I think you just have to know when to sell, and I think this is it.
Is there a case though to say that he could have more of an impact for us next season? Let's say than a Matisse Tell, like a Wilson Odobey, obviously very young players still trying to make their name in the game and still in kind of development stage, and we don't know how long it's going to take them to get to that level that we want them to be. Is there a case to say that Solomon could have more of an impact for us
next season? Yeah. Is it? I mean, I guess you could make the argument for if we're just looking for next season, then potentially he's maybe got more of a chance of getting more goals and assists and making an impact more regularly. But if they believe that these guys have the higher ceiling and they're the better, they have the bigger potential, and then you're looking to, because we're not going to sell these players, and then you're looking to supplement that with added quality. Do you want to rely on Manor Solomon as being that winger, or do you want a more kind of someone who you think is even better than him, a higher level? and that's what I think the club should be going for.
Yeah. Or you just don't sign Matisse Tell. You bring in Solomon and bring in another, like a top winger as well to supplement that.
We could do that as well. If you're not signing Tell, then you've got Son, and then you probably want to sign another winger on top of that. I don't know. You don't need Solomon and another winger on the left, probably.
Just from what I've seen, it does look like Solomon is just, better at this moment in time than Odegaard and Tell.
Well, they've done well in the Championship. Obviously, Tell and Odegaard have been playing at different levels. Who knows if they were in the Championship last season, if they would have put up similar numbers.
Yeah, we don't know. But Solomon, he's had one good game, hasn't he, in the Spurs shirt against Burnley. But he's only had 5 games for Spurs. That's crazy to think about. 5 games, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It will be a shame if we sell him this summer. Because it's kind of like, if he goes on and does well somewhere else, everyone's going to be like, why didn't we keep him?
No, absolutely right. And maybe it's just a timing thing, just the kind of where we are at the moment. It is a bit unfortunate, but I do think it's the right thing to do.
Next up, we're going to be talking about Bentancur, as James Ollie says that Tottenham are understood to be locked in negotiations with Bentancur over a new contract with 12 months left to run on his existing deal. I feel like we've got a decision to make this summer of Bentancur and Bissouma, because I think it's clear that we need a player in that position to come in this summer. And one of these guys is going to have to be the full guy. In my opinion, it should be Bissouma. And we should be, my opinion was a bit different a few months ago on Bentancur, but I feel like in this Europa League run, he's really earned a chance to stay here for another couple of years. And I do think this is the right course of action. And
he seems more trusted by Ange, and I agree. When he stepped up in the recent games, he's been brilliant. We also know that in the Tottenham shirt, we have seen evidence of him being consistently good. I know it's not maybe been for a while, but before his injury, he was absolutely, in a Tottenham shirt, phenomenal. Unfortunately for Bissouma, we saw, apart from patches, we haven't really seen like an extended period where he's been the main midfielder who can be relied upon and trusted in that midfield. And as much as he's stepped in recently and done well in Europa, fair play to him. I think he leaves the club with his head held high as a Europa League winner. And I do think there will be suitors for him because I think he's a good player, and I think people know he's a good player. But I think where Tottenham are, if we're looking for a more established centre midfielder, something's going to have to give, and I think Bissouma is going to have to be the full guy.
Yeah, who's actually shown more signs of consistency this season, Bissouma or Bentancur?
It's hard to say. Bentancur for the first half of the season was just decimated by injury and ban. So, it's kind of a write-off that first half of the season. Albeit when he did play, he had some good games, but also he had some bad games as well. And then in January, he came back from the ban and he was thrust into the situation which we were in, which was a terrible one. Bissouma, again, had a good start to the season, but then fell away, but had a really decent last few games. So I probably would say Bentancur's probably had the better season.
Because they both, save their best performances for these latter stages of the Europa League, haven't they? That's when they've both kind of earned their money this season.
Bentancur's just had more of them.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about potential incomings now, and we're going to talk about a player called Xavi Simons, as James Ollie says that Spurs have an interest in Leipzig star Xavi Simons.
Yes, please.
I've heard, I saw reports a couple of weeks ago saying that Xavi Simons is looking for a route out of RB Leipzig and looking for a Champions League side. So I don't think RB Leipzig got European football at all for next season, which was a big shock.
I'm not sure what his current situation is, because obviously he was loaned there for 2 years, and then then they signed him permanently last season.
Yeah.
So last season he was there permanently, and the loan deals were fantastic for him. He was absolutely brilliant there on loan. I love Xavi Simons. I think he's phenomenal. I think in the Euros he was brilliant. I think he's a top talent. He reminds me of basically a Dutch Phil Foden. That's the best way to describe him. So technically gifted, unbelievable quality. I thought he was destined probably to go back to PSG. I don't know if they have a buyback clause or anything, but I thought before he went to Leipzig permanently, I thought 100% he's going to go back to PSG. But for some reason they agreed to sell him to Leipzig, and now maybe there's an opportunity. Obviously he's been linked with Bayern as well, but they've already got Musiala and very similar player as well. So maybe they don't want him. I'd be shocked if we are able to get him, to be honest. I think he's just one of the top talents, and I think he's phenomenal.
So Leipzig signed him for 50 million euros. I heard the fee that they want for him is somewhere close to like 70 million euros, which is fair enough.
I'd just...
And for 70 million euros, to get someone of that quality is an absolute no-brainer. But what I have heard and what I've seen from Leipzig fans on social media is that he does have a bit of an attitude problem.
And he has a bit of a golden boy because he came through when he was very young, didn't he? So
at La Masia, no? At Barcelona.
Yeah. Was it PSG or La Masia?
No, he came, I think his youth days was spent at Barcelona, and then he went to PSG.
So maybe he has that kind of arrogance, or maybe kind of like entitlement that a guy who's had that kind of youth career has, potentially.
Yeah.
Like he expects these things. He expects he's the best. He's going to get all the game time. Maybe. Look, I don't... If that might be true. You obviously got to do your background checks and see the character. You've got to get the right characters in, 100%. But he's also one of these players who can just play midfield. He can play false nine. He can play on the wing. Both wings. He's just so versatile. He's also kind of maybe a kind of profile we don't really have in a way. Maybe Maddison's the closest we have, but he's kind of like a Dani Olmo, a Musiala, a Wirtz, Foden. These kind of little technical players who love playing in between the lines. And I think he would also really help kind of when we have the ball in the final third, breaking teams down, adding that little bit of quality and magic. So I think he's phenomenal. And if he... Look, obviously depending on his attitude, but that's the kind of quality we need to really go up a notch, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And he's only 22 years of age. Like,
yeah.
Feels like he's been around forever. Literally. He got 18 goal contributions this season in the Bundesliga, 10 goals, 8 assists. And then last season, he got 8 goals and 11 assists. So consistently pulling up those goal contributions, Xavi Simons. And yeah, look, I would love to see a player of that quality come through the door. I do find it a bit unlikely that Spurs can get a deal like that done. But he's looking for Champions League football. And if no one else is willing to stump up that cash, then surely we're in for a shout, you know? And you would look at it, though, like with the links to Eberechi Eze, it's only going to be one of Eze. We're not going to sign both of them, right? So which one would you prefer to see through the door?
I think Simons has the higher ceiling. Obviously, Eze is, though, like 5 years older. He's Prem ready. Yeah. If they're going to be a similar price, obviously Simons has more Champions League experience than Eze.
Yeah.
Even though he's younger, I probably would lean towards Simons. Even though I love Eze, I think Eze maybe next season might have a better season, but I think for the long term, I think Simons would be the better shout.
And in an Ange system, what do you think his best position is? Do you think it's the Maddison/Decky role? Is it going to be on the left wing?
For an Ange system, you probably say central, then out wide. Yeah, I think he could probably, because out wide he's probably going to be similar to how Decky plays it. Like he can do it, but it's not going to be at his best. Central is probably where he'll be at his best.
So if we do sign him, does one or Maddison and Kulu need to leave then?
Not necessarily, because if you get a Champions League, I think hopefully I would like maybe next season we start to see a bit more of that Maddison Decky together a bit more again. Obviously not every game.
Bergvall then. I guess Bergvall can't play every game.
Can't play every game. He's only 19. I'm sure he'll be playing a lot of games. And there'll be Bergvall, and sometimes with Bergvall and Maddison, Bergvall and Decky, Bergvall and Simons, that kind of thing. And then you have a 6. And also then you have Sarr, and sometimes it'll be Sarr. And you're just trying to have it. But I think with Champions League, Carabao Cup, and Premier League, you can have enough. Like this season, we played 60 games. There's enough games to go around.
I do feel like if we were to sign him, he would end up playing a lot of games at left wing.
Yeah, I agree with that. He would probably be playing on the wing quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Johnny Cardoso, as we all saw him getting absolutely battered last night by Chelsea in the Conference League final. So the first one to break it was James Ollie, and he says Cardoso looks set to join Atletico Madrid. Then Marca came up and said Cardoso has turned down a move to Tottenham to join Atletico Madrid. The agreement between Atleti and the player is imminent. And a journalist called Xavi Gomara says that Cardoso views the opportunity to play for Atletico very positively, but will not pressure Real Betis into rushing the deal. The clubs are expected to start talks to try and close the deal. Spurs do have a 25 million clause in June and matching rights on the deal as well. But if the player's heart's set on going to Atletico Madrid, then that's probably where he's going to go. But it's important to note that Spurs do have a 35% sell-on fee on the sale as well due to the Giovanni Lo Celso deal.
Yeah, bought a sell-on fee on him. So if he leaves and we get some money, I'll take that as well. Obviously, he's had some brilliant performances against some good teams this season. Barcelona, Real Madrid. I remember in those games dominating in central midfield. But I think there are some question marks whether he's ready to be like our number 6 right now. I have seen that as well. Obviously, he's clearly a good player that has some good attributes. But I heard as well, I think BBC were reporting, Tottenham are very much making a priority that we want an experienced player in that position. He doesn't really represent that as much as he's a good player and potentially a Champions League level player. He's never played at that level, and he's still 22, a young player, doing good in La Liga. But if we're looking for that, like our next number 6, who's going to be that player for a while, but also like ready to really be that player now, is he that guy? I think the jury's out, and maybe it's better looking another direction. But again, I don't really know what direction we do look in if it's not him, and who we kind of get. But I'm not gonna go mad over missing out on him if we get money there, and I don't know if he's the answer anyway.
Yeah, you know who would be a really good... I don't know if he's gettable right now, because I have seen links to Real Madrid. I don't know how serious they are, but that Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart...
Stiller, yeah.
He looks like a real number 6, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's also one that's been linked with a few clubs, and I think he has brilliant attributes, covers so much ground. Maybe he's one as well. I think a lot of talks about him as well.
Yeah, but in terms of Johnny Cardoso, I mean, we did hear, didn't we, a month or two ago that, you know, he might be thinking of rejecting Tottenham, and it looks like it's come to pass.
Well,
now.
it is Master, though. It's not like they do get a lot of things wrong as well. So,
well, it's not just them. It's a few other saying that he's going to Atletico. It's not just them.
Who else is saying it?
James Ollie and Xavi Romero, who apparently is a tier 1 source out in Spain.
Oh, fair enough.
So there are a few of them. In terms of Leroy Sane, Gary Jacobs says that Arsenal are now understood to be showing interest in Tottenham-linked Leroy Sane. Sane will find himself out of contract next month to leave Bayern Munich after 5 years at the club. However, Bild are reporting a new report today that's saying that Tottenham are now ahead of both Arsenal and Chelsea in the race for Leroy Sane.
See, the thing is, for Arsenal, it kind of makes more sense than us because they've got a Saka, they've got someone who's going to play 80% of games, whatever, and then you can kind of have Sane fill in there. For us, it's just a bit different. We need someone playing a lot more.
But does it? Like, is he really going to go there on massive wages just to play second fiddle to Saka?
I'm saying if he's willing to, it makes more sense for them.
For them, yeah, but for him.
I don't know about for him. I'm just saying the signing makes more sense for Arsenal than it does for us in a weird way, because he kind of fills the role they need. Whereas for us, I think we're going to sign him as this star winger, the star signing, and I just don't know if he's up to that anymore to be that player. Like I think if we're asking him to play 50% of games, then fine. But are we going to do that? Is it worth doing that? Like signing him for him to do that? Yeah. I like him. Obviously, he's had a wonderful career. He's a wonderful player. But I've just, his physical condition at his age with that wages, I don't know if that should be our big winger signing.
Yeah, I know. I do get where you're coming from. There are definite question marks there. But, I mean, when I've seen him play this season, he's looked really good. Like, from the times I have seen him play. So, he's also pulled up more goal contributions this season than he has done ever in a Bayern Munich shirt in the course of the 5 years that he's been there. So I just look at him, and when you're looking at the experience he has, when you're looking at what he's done in the game, when you're looking at we need experience in this team, I just feel like it would be a really good signing for us to make. But then again, we had all those conversations about Chiesa in the summer, and that hasn't really gone well for him. Yeah,
I just want someone I think their body's maybe a bit more reliable right now. Especially, I don't know if we're keeping Ange. He's going to have to be more high pressing. Like, he's at Bayern, right? Most teams are really dominating, and he's just basically, asked to get the ball in the final third and do stuff. Like at Tottenham, I don't know if he'll have that luxury.
Yeah, it's true. But we'll wait and see what happens. I still find it very hard to believe that Spurs do go a deal and go give him like 250 grand, 300 grand, whatever he wants. You know what I mean? I find it very hard to believe that this will be a deal that Spurs are going to do. Like, I look at the deals like Sane on the table and Dibbling on the table. Like, Dibbling's so much more likely to bring through the deal than Sane.
That's knowing how we operate. That's what we're more likely to do.
Yeah. And last but not least, we're going to talk about some striker targets. And James Ollie again has been talking about it. And he says Spurs have been linked with Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko. And Lille's Jonathan David has been repeatedly linked on the free transfer as well. I mean, in terms of Benjamin Sesko, this one is never going to happen.
Well, I just read that they're asking for 92 million.
92 million, euros, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
I mean, he's not worth 92 million right now in his career, is he?
Probably not. I mean, his ceiling is quite high, and he's very young. He's, 21, 22.
Yeah.
But in terms of what he's shown, you can't say he's proven to be a 92 million striker just yet. You're paying a lot more for his potential and his attributes rather than what he's shown. But obviously, he has shown quite a bit, but he's not shown he's at, you look at Darwin Núñez. If he's this Liverpool signed him 70 million because that season he had banging goals left, right, and centre, and he's got good attributes as well. Big, strong, fast, and you think can't go wrong, but it has for one reason or another. So there's always an element of risk, isn't there? But don't get me wrong, I do think he's going to be a top striker. Yeah,
when you're looking at players outside of the Premier League that are not Premier League proven, there's always going to come with a risk every single time.
In terms of Jonathan David, it's looking very likely to go to Napoli, it looks like. So
who are we going to get in this strike? If Richarlison does go, then who are we going to get in this number 9
Delap
position?
looks like he's on his way to Chelsea.
Delap's going to Chelsea. Vlahovic, would you like Vlahovic?
Who am I to turn my nose up him, I guess, at this point? In terms of him and Solanke, I wouldn't mind that. He's probably an upgrade on Richarlison. He can be a good striker. But Juve, I don't know, this season just hasn't gone great for him at Juve. And they've never really taken to him.
I thought last year he had a really good year, started to really replicate that Fiorentina form. I don't think it was the course of the whole season, but there were periods of last season where you're thinking, wow, Vlahovic is just scoring every week. But then this year it's kind of gone backwards again. Do you reckon there's any scenario where Rishi stays? I mean, there's always a scenario with Rishi saying if no one stumps up the money for him, then he's not going to go. That's the reality. I do feel like he's going to end up at Everton this summer, though.
Yeah, I think he's more likely to leave. But yeah, the problem is, last summer I was saying I would sell him, but I actually don't mind him staying. I think because when he's fit, if we can keep him fit, he's a good player. And then we did keep him, and then he just couldn't stay fit again. So to have that happen again, it's just hard to envisage that on the third, giving it another go and seeing if he could stay fit. It's just too much of a risk now.
I feel like at this football club, we're on the never-ending search for a number 9. Literally all the way through the Kane years, we're we need a 9 to supplement Harry Kane. And then Kane left, we brought in Richarlison, and then Richarlison didn't really cut it, and we're we need another number 9, we need another number 9. This summer, the summer just gone was, we got Solanke, and that was it. So it's literally a never-ending search.
Yeah, we need that. Well, the problem is we're always kind of, whoever we get is compared to Kane, and you're just never going to stack up when it's Harry Kane, are you? And I think we were just not underappreciated. We loved Kane, but it's we underappreciated how good in quality this guy is compared to other strikers. We just think those finishes he makes into the side netting, it makes it look easy, doesn't he? And you can see now how difficult those are.
Just come home, man.
Yeah, I wish. If we had Solanke and Kane, please.
Just come home, Harry. Just come home.
Love that.
Imagine that, playing Solanke and Kane together in a front two.
That would work beautifully.
Solanke won't need to drop deep no more. Just get Kane doing that dropping deep, and Solanke high pressing from the front, staying in it as a fox in the box, and Kane as a second striker kind of.
It'd be fantastic. One can dream.
But anyway, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let us know in the comment section below all your thoughts regarding the news stories brought to you today.